Hey everyone, welcome back to the Tailwind CSS V4 series. All right, after taking an idea about Tailwind CSS and setting it up, it's time to start learning some basic concepts. The first thing we're going to learn is how to style text, colors, and spacing using Tailwind utility classes. These are the core foundations that will make your designs look clean and consistent. It's time to start the application, but first, there are some tools that will help you with Tailwind CSS. First, there is an extension called Tailwind IntelliSense. You can install it in Visual Studio Code. It's a really great extension. It will help you while working with Tailwind CSS. As you know, there are a lot of classes in Tailwind CSS, but you don't need to remember all of them. With this extension, it will help you write Tailwind CSS classes more easily. It will make working with Tailwind CSS much easier. So the first thing we see is text utility. We will see how we can control text utilities using Tailwind CSS classes. First, we set up a ready HTML file for all the examples we will see. But don't worry, we'll explain everything here. So the first thing we will see is how we can control font sizes using Tailwind CSS classes. We just set up a ready HTML file for all the examples we will see. As you can see, there are many examples and the text size is different. For example, if you want small text, you can use the class text_sm. For large text, text_lg, and for extra large text, text_xl. For extra large, you can control it with many options. For example, text_xl, text2xl, text3xl, text4xl. As you can see, the text changes differently depending on the class used. Let's close these changes to see the page nicely. As you can see, it's clear now that you can control the text using these classes. The second thing you control, for example, is text weight, or the thickness of the text. So for example, we have 3 classes, each specialized for a certain text weight. Font light for light text, font medium for medium text, and font bold for bold text. It's very easy to use, just apply the class and you can control the font weight. We also have how to control text alignment. For example, there are 3 cases. Text left makes the text align to the left, text center centers the text, and text right aligns the text to the right. It's also very easy, just apply these classes. You can also control the text color. To control the text color, you use Tailwind classes with the text color name and a number. For example, text gray 500, text blue 500, text red 500. You might ask, why this number? I'll explain. This number controls the shade and lightness of the color. For example, for red, you can have 100, 200, 300, 400, and so on. This creates a gradual change from light to dark. The numbers usually range from 50 to 950. For example, 50 is the lightest shade, and 900 or 950 is the darkest shade of that color. To see all the possible colors, you can visit the Tailwind CSS website. Go to the documentation section and then search for colors. As you can see here, you can find all the possible colors like red, orange, and you can also try them with their different numbers. The last thing we have in this paragraph is line height, or the space between lines. You can also control it using a class called leading. It has different values like tight, relaxed, and loose. You can see the difference between these classes. You might ask, do you need to memorize all these classes? Not really. You just need to get an idea of the classes. There are many classes for different uses. Get an idea of the classes, and with practice, you will get used to some of them. It's okay if you don't remember all the classes. You can always go to the Tailwind documentation and check them there. So as you can see, it's simple. For example, we see this example that contains the different classes. As we said, you can easily control the text size, the color, and the alignment, whether it's left aligned or others. As I said, it's very simple. The second thing we will learn is how to work with backgrounds, how to control the background color using Tailwind CSS. It's not different from text color, it's almost the same logic. But this time, the class starts with bg-nash followed by the color name. For example, bg-gray-500. The number, as before, controls the darkness or lightness of the color. It's really simple and easy. You can control the background color as you want. And as I said before, you can visit the Tailwind CSS website to see all the available colors. Okay, the next thing we will learn now is padding, meaning how to control padding and margin. Let's start with padding. It's also simple. The class responsible for padding is P. You just write P followed by a number that represents the size. Here I want to mention something important about the measurements. For example, the value 1 is equal to 4 pixels or 0.25 rem. In the first example, P2 means 0.5 rem or 8 pixels. The same thing applies to margin. You use the letter M followed by the number that controls the size of the margin or the spacing. You can also control the margin from the 4 directions: top, bottom, left, and right. For example, MT is for margin top, MB is for margin bottom, ML is for margin left, MR is for margin right. As you can see here, it's very simple. We also have MX, which controls the horizontal margin, and MY, which controls the vertical margin. As you can see, it's easy. For example, if we change MX to 8, you can clearly see the result. Let's also change MT margin top to 8. Here, I think there was a small mistake. I think the problem was that I used a class called space, which caused the issue. Don't worry, I'll explain space in a moment. As you can see now, everything is fixed. Let's apply margin top 10. As you can see, the change happened correctly. Now let's try margin bottom 12, and as you can see, it worked perfectly on the second element. Let's just change the background so we can see it clearly. For example, margin top 10 works automatically. That's one of the great features of Tailwind CSS. And if we change margin X or horizontal margin to 20, as you can see, it works easily. You can fully control margin and padding. It's very simple. The same thing also applies to padding. For example, in this element, we can control padding on all 4 sides. PT2 for padding top equals 2, PL mesh 10 for padding left equals 10, PB mesh 20 for padding bottom equals 20. It's very easy. You can also use vertical padding pi-10 and horizontal padding px40. As you can see, it's very simple and the same logic applies to both padding and margin. Now we move to another concept, spacing between elements. For example, we have 2 cases, vertical spacing and horizontal spacing. For vertical spacing, the class is space_y, which controls the space between elements vertically. As you can see, we have space_y my 4. When we change it, the space between elements updates automatically. We can also set space_y my 1, and as you see, the space is smaller, or change it to space_y my 3, and the space increases. This way, you can control the vertical spacing between elements. For horizontal spacing, the class is space-x. This is usually used in flex layouts, but don't worry, we will cover flex in the next example. As you can see, the same class logic applies. Now let's move on to practical examples and create a simple profile card. First, let's add some general styles. Set the background to gray 50 and the text color to gray 800. Then, create a div for the card. Inside that div, add an image. We already prepared the image and named it logo.jpg. As you can see, the image is added, but it's too large. We reduce the width of the image to W25. We'll also explain width and height in more detail later. Now, you can see that the height and width of the image have been updated correctly. Next, we move these styles directly to the body to make it cleaner and remove the extra div. Now let's add some styles to the main div. Background white, some vertical margin, for example, my 5. As you can see, the background is applied correctly. Then add horizontal margin mx-10, make the card rounded, and add a shadow. It already looks much better. Next, we make the image fully rounded so it becomes circular. We also set the horizontal margin for the image to auto to make it centered. Then we add a heading, for example, an H2 like Tisfula Academy. We make the text larger using text 2XL as we saw before. Next, we add font bold to make the title bold and text center to center all the text inside the card. As you can see, it looks great so far. We can also add some text under the heading. Then, we set the text color to text gray 500. As you can see, it looks really nice. Now we add a button, for example, subscribe. We add some styling to the button, red background, some vertical padding, some horizontal padding to make it rounded. We set the text color to white and font weight to 500 medium. As you can see, it looks really great. And by the way, don't forget to subscribe if you like this video. We also add some vertical padding inside the card, and as you can see, it looks really nice. So, this is the final look of this example. It's very simple and doesn't require a lot of CSS code or complicated steps. If you like this video, don't forget to click the like button, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Also, if you liked this teaching method, or even if you didn't, please leave your feedback. It helps us improve the quality of our videos.